Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the live stream, the Chinese Medicine Podcast. That's my little intro song. I could do a better intro song than that, but that was just me testing that the microphone was working. So I hope you're doing well. This is a bit of a late start for today. Last week I got up early and I think I started about 8:30 or something maybe, and today it's 10:30. And it's later for everyone else in the rest of the world because you guys have daylight saving. We don't have it here in Perth, but we will still be. I'm still going to be here for an hour. See who jumps on. It may be a quiet one. It may be a busy one. We don't know. I have an hour now before my patients start, so I will do my best to answer some questions. I have got a couple that have just come on the channel, probably overnight or something like that. So we'll have those, and yeah, if you're jumping into this stream and you've missed it, you're doing it later and you think, damn, I missed the stream, just put your questions in the comments and I'll try and get them for the following week, right? Or comments of this video or any video. Like I will try and do my best to see the comments that you have there, and we'll answer them. So we will just add one today. Let's put this in. I hope everyone's doing well. The world's going to shit again. Man, it's just like you just don't know what's going to happen to you, and you have to laugh because you might cry. That's kind of where it's at. It's not at the crying stage yet, really, but it's like it's not good, is it? Like not having. I mean, where I'm in WA in Perth, it's not. Anyway, I don't want to make this stream like the doom and gloom, but there's just not much petrol around. I haven't been out to get petrol in the last few days or anything. I haven't needed it, but like that's the issue that we're facing, right? And then all the plants grow and apparently using petrol these days, right? Which you may seem wild and crazy to you, but farmers do use petrol. They use diesel. So let's see what happens. And it's good to be part of something in terms of Chinese medicine that is ancient, because it transcends all this stuff. That's what I like about it. That's what I liked about it in COVID time, in a way. Like it's a peaceful medicine in a way, because there's a lot of stuff. Actually, yeah. Anyway, we won't talk about that too much. But the preface of the book that I follow, as in my main medicine, the Shanghan Lun, a lot of practitioners use that as the basis or the foundation of their medicine. The author that wrote that sort of talks about how it's all happened before, and it had happened in his lifetime, not petrol crisis, but like a pandemic crisis. And when people are in a panic and people are in a craziness, what that does to people in terms of how they seek out their medicine. Anyway, that's another thing. So we're going to answer this question first. And if people want to know more about that, we can talk about that later. So this is a question from was just on the channel, like I think overnight, and it was on coffee and Chinese medicine. So Mind Remote commented, if you have liver qi stagnation, but also dampness, is coffee detrimental overall? I generally feel good with one per day. Now, this is probably, I think sometimes people want an answer like, yes, a permission. I give you permission to have your one coffee a day. And I do, and I will. But I will explain why in this video. And I think I did that in that video. I think that's what that video was about. But let's explain it again if you still didn't get it. But sometimes people, even though they have the explanation, they can't figure it out for themselves. And the permission to do these things is based on you understanding, well, what is that going to do? There's always a detriment to something, and there's always a positive to something. In everything. That's the yin and yang of life. Like there's always going to be good and bad of things. And sometimes the good is in the dose, and the bad is in the dose, the proportion, and that's the same with coffee. And it's also in cahoots with what else you're eating, what else is in your diet. So the general rule that you can follow with coffee, and look, I'm having a coffee. I love coffee. I'm having one now. Before I do this stream, I make like 2 coffees, one in a thermosy thing and one in my mug. So I'm ready to go, like, because this is first thing in the morning for me. I do a class really late at night on a Sunday, because that's coincides with people on a Sunday night for me is Monday night for them. Sorry, Sunday night for me is Sunday morning for them, or Sunday day for them. Anyway, so hence because I do that, I have all this gear set up in my studio, in my office room or my studio room, whichever one I choose to do the class in. And I just jump on to where the gear is. So that's hence why you are seeing me every Monday. I don't have to set everything up from scratch each time. But I do have to get up, and I generally let myself have a sleep in because I've been up. And sometimes when you've taught a class till 11 o'clock at night, you are a bit wired, and it is a bit hard to go to sleep after that, just because you've been up. So I just let myself go to sleep when I fall asleep and then wake up when I wake up. And today it was later. Today it was 9:30 I think I woke up. The crack of 9:30. Anyway, so, right, what were we doing? We're answering this question about coffee. So, how do you know you've had too much coffee or it's detrimental to you? The main reason will be the loose stools, the bowel movements. So coffee is a purgative. It's going to get your bowels moving. It's going to get things, potentially purging out of you. And that is a good thing if you're constipated, because some people rely on coffee to do that, because they almost like they need it to get their bowels moving. And if they don't have the coffee, they can't go. So that could also be a downside of having coffee every day, and then you stop having it, and then you realize, my body was relying on that as a type of a purgative. Now, if you just have one coffee a day, you enjoy that, and it doesn't seep into 3. I'm just saying 3 because, when we say 2, it probably means 3 for those people, or more than that. That's probably fine. And the biggest detriment with the coffee, I would say nowadays, is the other milk. The almond milk, the oat milk, the whatever milk. These things are full of shit in the packets, and they taste delicious. Like, for ages I used to have almond milk in my coffee because I used to think, cow's milk was making me feel bloated and not good. And it was. And then when I had the almond milk, I didn't feel that. But then you look at what the ingredients are in the almond milk, and now I just have a coffee machine at home and I use A2 milk, and I'm fine with that. And I can have, I'm talking like in those days I was probably doing my master's degree or something, and I was still studying a lot and trying to stay up late and all this sort of stuff. And anyway, this question's not about me. It's about them. So if you have a question, you've jumped into the stream, welcome to the people that are here. Thank you for joining, and please feel free to ask a question. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Put a comment there. Helps bump the algorithm. Give the algorithm a bump by putting a comment. Share the stream with people like if you've got Chinese medicine friends. Who doesn't have a Chinese medicine friend? Who's got a student group? Share it, and then they can ask questions. You guys can ask questions in the stream. So yes, if you are functioning well on that, in terms of you don't really see those symptoms of damp, and often some of the symptoms of damp might go away from coffee. We're talking about black coffee, because it's going to help with that foggy headedness feeling. It's going to make your head feel clearer, temporarily probably, until the caffeine part of it does that. It's common when you've got chi stagnation, that coffee's going to make you feel good. And that was what that video was about. It's like, I'm pretty sure that video talks about the effect of coffee on wood element and on the earth element, and how they kind of coincides with each other. So yeah, hopefully that answers that question. That's an easy one. We got that out of the way. Not that that sounds bad. Like, oh, good, we got one out of the way. So please feel free to ask your questions. I'm just going to go to this one here. There's been quite a few new people jumping in the channel. I published the video with myself and Michael Brown this week, and if you haven't seen that, well, it's going to be it's going to be a really interesting episode for you. I won't spoil it, but just go and watch it. He's very knowledgeable in terms of what he knows about the history. Like, he's obviously a scholar of classical Chinese medicine. He's translated a lot of books, but he also, because he's done that, he knows a lot of history. He just remembers a lot of things, and he's a fun person to have a chat with. if you're interested, if you're a Chinese medicine nerd, he's a fun person to get into it with. And he's also very animated, you know, like not what you would think as a typical, oh, you're a scholarly person like you. He's a good value. So we may do some other chats and have some other topics. So if people have things that they want to talk about like that, in that way, we have Michael Brown on again and have some discussion. Yeah. Now we've got one question here. Oh, I know this is not great timing for people in terms of the time zone thing, but it was either do it or don't do it today. So I know people are going to say, "Oh, I missed the stream," and I'm sorry. Sorry you did. Let's have a look. All right, we're just grabbing another question. So this is from also probably the weekend, I think. I'll just put that down super tiny, way up there. So Sid 333. Sid. Let's have a look. Is that working good? Yep, the audio's still working. Let's have a look here. Sid, you are so sweet. I do love your new videos. I love your videos, sorry. New to your channel, and thank you for sharing. Seeking to strengthen my spleen and rid some dampness. So that's a good pursuit, and I'm sure you will find plenty of videos like that on this channel. So there is a little thing that I have on the channel that says start here, and they are kind of the most popular videos actually for those topics. Okay. I think I have a I'm just going to go on the channel. Hopefully it won't play anything loud. There we go. Good. It's muted. So the first thing that says start here, that's actually probably got the most videos you need to watch. Like all of those things would probably be relevant for you right till you get to the end where it says thyroid and blood deficiency. And they may be relevant to you as well. But then there is a playlist called Diet Therapy, and it starts with like the very basics. The video that I always recommend people to go to is called Why Eat Mostly Cooked Foods. And that's the video that kind of popped the channel off actually, like, and that's got stuff about why you should, and the audios and the video qualities, you know, it says 8 years ago. So that's when I started it. Well, not when I started it. I actually have one on here 13 years ago. So that's when I started the channel. Wow. But those things were more like, okay, here's the basic stuff that I would tell every patient, like what's going to help your diet. And it's still relevant now. And then there's a couple of videos that I've got, like, you know, dampness and spleen chi in 3 ways to help your spleen chi and reduce damp in 2021 or something like that. So those are just like additional things that will help you, I guess. Like they're just other you know, tips once you've got the basics stuff. All right. Alrighty. Good. Let me see if there's any other questions here. I do sometimes get questions on Instagram, but I don't really look at them that often. I should look at them. I should look at them more, but I don't. That's bad. That's not good. It's hard to keep up with everything. Hard to keep up with the world. Yeah, so all right, we've finished with this one now. So if people do have a new question, just please put it into the chat. I hope you can hear me all good. Everything's loud enough. I'm just going to check, hopefully, the audio now because I didn't check it before. Let's have a look here. Let us know where you're tuning in from. I'm about to... Oh, what's happened there? I was half faded on. I am about to... It's not showing it. This is so weird. It's not showing my own video here to me. So how's it showing How's it showing to others? Great. It's a hidden it's a hidden video. That's terrible. Oh, it's got the wrong screenshot on there. That's why. That's what's happened.
Yesterday,
Oops.
the Liberal Party decided.
Just playing random things. All right. Well, I'm just going to assume that this is working. That's what we have to do. Okay, we've got to wait for an ad to go on before it lets me do anything else. I just got to check this is right. Otherwise, I'm not going to bang on with the audio being wrong or being bad. But if people can let me know if they can hear me properly in the chat, that'll be great. Yeah, like for the people that have just jumped into the stream, we've done a couple of questions, but this is not the usual time. I guess I was trying to do this a bit earlier. There we go. Let me just save this right. Okay, great. The audio is working good. And so that I can tell when people jump in and out of the stream that sometimes the audio is just not loud enough or something, and people don't say that. They just just go away. They just, bye-bye. And they don't say anything. Yeah, so let's see. If you have a question, please feel free to ask it in the chat. I'm just going to get another question here. Got a few. Oh, good. There's some more people coming in. That's great. Let us know where you're tuning in from. What side of the world are you in? And yeah, I was just saying the episode that I did with Michael Brown is a really good one to jump into this week. Unbelievable Treatments in Chinese Medicine, it's called. And it's just interesting. Like, it's just, I don't know, like some amazing stories and stuff. USA. Oh, it must be the middle of the night for you. 10 a.m. might be 10 p.m. for you there, or 8 p.m. maybe. Love the USA. God bless the USA. I had a dream randomly, like when all the election things were happening in the USA, because you just see, you don't see a lot here in Australia on the news. It's all negative stuff, but that they put on the news. But I don't watch that stuff. I watch the YouTube news people. And in my dream, this was when it was there must have been something. It was either some kind of Trump rally or some kind of concert or something, and I was on stage with that guy that sings "God Bless the USA," and like that just song is just such a and I love the American. I've never heard that song before except for in those kind of settings, and it's just like one of those songs where once you hear it, it just gets in your mind, and it was like an earworm, and I've probably put it in your mind now too. So anyway, that just popped in my mind, like, God bless the USA. It's I really like the melody of that song is just very earwormy. Anyway, as a musician, it sort of catches your ear. But then, it's not something that you could go to the shops and just sing along. You know when you've had a song spin in your dream, and you sort of find yourself singing it. It's like, why are you going down the shops in Australia singing "God Bless the USA"? Anyway, that was just random. That popped back in my head then. So, yeah, if people have a question, please feel free to ask it. Here's a good question. This was this week. Did we answer this already? No, we did not answer this. I don't think I answered this already. Here we go. Here's a question. Thanks, USA. National Public Adjusting 180. What are some herbs or formulas that promote sleep and are safe to take while breastfeeding? All right, so I'll just pop that into the question thing so I can put it on the screen. So this is something where you definitely need to see a practitioner for this stuff. So I cannot tell you a formula that you can take that's safe to take while breastfeeding for you individually. Like this is very, very practitioner domain here. So this is a good question because I understand why you want to ask it. You probably got, maybe you or someone you know has got bad sleep and you want to help you sleep. And sometimes you think, oh, I just, maybe you can't afford to see a practitioner or there isn't one near you. That can also be a reason, right? Like or you might not trust a practitioner and think, oh, well, who do I trust and what do I do? And some people are just, their nature is, I'm just going to do this on my own. That's my nature too, right? So I'm very much like, I'll try and nut it out by myself. Not talking about herbs so much, right? I mean, that's one of the reasons why, not the only reason why I studied Chinese medicine, but it was an appeal to me to think, oh, I can help myself. I can fix myself. I don't need to rely on other people. I can puzzle it out for myself. And there are some things you can, but like a good example would be in business. There's stuff where I've tried to puzzle it out on my own. And it's not until you meet someone else that you pay for their time, you pay them to be a marketing mentor, you pay them to something, and you think, shit, like I've actually wasted a lot of time trying to puzzle it out on my own. And look, it's hard sometimes in those areas. Practitioners are exactly the same as those types of people for me, because you think, oh, I'm going to give you all this money, and it's so gate kept in a way that you don't know whether are you like, the trust has to be there that is the right thing for you to do. And for some people, they build trust in practitioners through understanding, like if the practitioner can explain it to you properly. For some, they're just like, well, your reputation precedes you or something. Well, you've got the degree, right? Like, why would I have this degree here if, you could probably, I guess people could just print one out or something. But like the idea is you've done the study to work that out. So I can talk about some formulas and styles of sleep treatment that are used, but I can't recommend something to you like that because the answer is none of them are safe in breastfeeding just blanketly. It depends on, like, so there's a lot of formulas that will go into your breast milk, and they will that's what they will do. So the way that we think about that is the mother and the child are actually one unit, one person. You were one person at one point almost, right? One coexisting, codependent in some way, right? Certainly the baby is dependent on the mother, and whatever's happening with the mother is almost like happening with the baby, like together. Like there's a togetherness there, especially when they are breastfeeding. And like, so there's a kind of what we do for the mothers, it actually treats the baby. And so if there are effects from herbs on the baby, that's where you need the guidance of a practitioner to be there. So that's one of the things that's really, really important. There may be a list of herbs, I guess, that do or don't go into breast milk that you could possibly look up. But Chinese herbs doesn't ever work by like one herb. Here's one herb that promotes sleep. It's a formula. And I don't know whether there's going to be enough research on those formulas. But in the clinical setting, often we are assessing the patient in terms of, when I say assessing the patient, assessing the baby and the mum together. Now, the baby may not come in with the mum. Like I've had plenty of these cases where there's the person's breastfeeding. And that's why you become under the care of a practitioner, so that if something happens, we can adjust things. We can work things, we can change things. We can change the formula. We can adjust it. Chinese herbs can have some. There are some formulas that have indications for sleep. But what's right for you isn't necessarily right for somebody else, and that is based on pulse diagnosis. So why you might not be sleeping, we can talk about that. The other reason I can't talk about this too much is, like, I can't with APRA guidelines, we can't claim something without evidence to support it. Now, there are research studies on like Tian Wang Bushing Dan or something like that. That's not a formula I would use. It's not a classical Chinese medicine formula, but there are formulas like that have been used in studies, and they've shown, what would they say, promise, or shown like, potential to help sleep or something like that. But yeah, I would really, really highly encourage you to find a herbalist, find a practitioner, because herbs are something that are powerful and effective, but they also, that power to be powerful and effective can also be power to be detrimental and wrong. So these are not things you can mess around with on your own. You need a practitioner to prescribe that to you. What you can do on your own is also support the pattern of disharmony that formula treats through your diet, your lifestyle, things that go along with that, right? But you definitely have to go and see a practitioner. And the example I was trying to say about the money. So for some people, it is a money issue now, and a time issue. Time is money. The amount of people patients I've seen that by the time they've come to me, they've bought a lot of these supplements and stuff from Instagram or, TikTok or just YouTube, I guess, or, they've seen people promote it. They've watched, even myself too. Like I was watching something last night, I think, and it was like saying, oh, this is for your hair. And, these kind of supplements would help your hair. And like, it's very lucrative the way they talk about this stuff, right? And those things can work, but there's a whole picture of stuff going on for a person that Chinese medicine worries about, that the practitioner worries about, thinks about, that isn't just like, oh, this herb helps you fall asleep. This herb helps calm your mind. The only herb that I could say that is kind of safe to play around with, I guess, that's not really even a herb, is a food as well, is a food herb called baihe. And that isn't always used for sleep anyway. It's used to help anxiety, calm your mind. So if mental restlessness is part of it and it's just hard to shut your mind down, like including baihe, and I've got a video on baihe, Baihe, in the channel somewhere. So I'm sorry, I don't want to give you, like, I know you wanted me to say, here's 5 formulas that can help with sleep, and they were all good when you're breastfeeding, that's all fine. Well, that's not the answer. I'm sorry, that's just how it is. So what you can do is you could send me an email to chinesemedicinepodcast@gmail.com and just say what area in the US you're in. And if there's any practitioners that do my system of herbs, so if I recommended someone, it would basically be the same as you seeing me. They do the exact same pulse diagnosis. They follow the same system, the lineage system. If I recommended you to do, someone, they wouldn't have as many good jokes as me. Maybe, but they will be doing a similar thing. So I will be happy to look. I'll ask in my group if there's anyone in that area where you are, and that's the best thing I can recommend you to do. So it might seem like it costs a lot of money up front, but you're saving money by not mucking around, and you're also saving money by not mucking around on your body. Like some of these things that you take, they can actually damage your liver and kidneys if they're wrongly, inappropriately prescribed, or like combinations. Practitioners are looking at what other things you're taking, the potential combinations of that stuff. And some of these things is a back and forward approach. Yep. So like, as in the patient takes the herbs, and that's why I put, like, not all practitioners do this, but I will give them my phone number and I say, look, if something's wrong, you call the clinic and we'll go from there. Like, not every formula works exactly how you intend it to work or you're hoping it to work. You won't know until the patient starts taking it. And that's part of being under the care of someone, because your situations are nuanced and different, right? Now, why would someone have difficulty with sleep? Often when you're up in the postpartum period, particularly that's after giving birth, you're more likely to be blood deficient. And so the yang, which is the function, the mind, the shen can't go down into the blood, which is this metaphorical concept, which like the blood then nourishes, and like it's fire descending into water, this idea, right? We've got the 5 elements here somewhere, haven't we? Yep, there we go. There they are. Put them on the screen. So see that fire, where is it? The fire descending into the water, right? That can't do it anyway because it's just weird. But that fire descending into the water is the idea of the fire, the consciousness, your shen, your mind, and the water being, so the water needs to be nourishing enough or sufficient enough, and that represents the nourishment of blood. And in TCM, they'll call that the kidney essence or the kidney energy. And that stuff is depleted after you've had a baby because you've just produced a baby. You've just made all this substance, and then you've also probably, been exhausted from the birth, and the breastfeeding itself is a toll on your body. So it might be about nourishing blood. We also sometimes use mineral anchoring methods, which are like herbs that help. It's like putting sandbags on the end of the hot air balloon to let it sink down so that your mind can sink down into sleep. Now, for some people, they can fall asleep, but then they wake up in the night and they wake up all hot. They wake up like the yang should rise in the morning, but then it rises too early or too quickly. It surges out in the middle of the night and they wake up and like as if, ding, it's the morning, but it's like 3 a.m. or something. So there are different formulas that work for those different things. There are also formulas that are more rare. Like Swanzao Rantang would be one that's a super rare formula for people that just can't even fall asleep hardly at all, right? And in TCM, that method is used a lot more than in classical Chinese medicine. There's just so many different methods of helping sleep. So some people with sleep who have difficulty sleeping can have difficulty sleeping just because of blood deficiency. Some people can have both blood and yang deficiency, and this is in a classical sense, right? In TCM, they're going to say, what do they say? They might say heart fire blazing, I think, is one of the things, like this type of insomnia where your mind is racing and stuff like that, or yin deficiency. They love yin deficiency. In classical Chinese medicine, we don't have any yin deficiency. So I hope you're still there. I hope you haven't disappeared. National Public Adjusting 180. But I hope that's a good enough answer for you. So yeah, you can send an email to that Gmail. I don't check it every day, but I will check it, and I can try and find a practitioner that's nearby enough for you for it to be workable for you. The other thing that people don't realize with Chinese medicine sometimes, Chinese herbal medicine particularly, is it's actually a lot cheaper in a way than acupuncture as a treatment, because you're not needing to go and see the practitioner all the time. So every practitioner works in a different way. So I don't want to say this is what they have to do, and if they're not doing it this way, they're wrong, or they're doing it wrongly. I will usually see my patients once every 2 weeks for about 3 or 4 times. This is on average. And then we're usually into a situation where they're having something that is working somewhat for them, and it's just a matter of staying on those herbs. So then they would just repeat those herbs, and they don't necessarily need to do a consultation. Now, some practitioners I know, they do acupuncture in cahoots with herbs, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great thing to do. And both of those things are working differently, and for some people that can get them a quicker result. Acupuncture can also give you this more instant result for stress relief, for pain relief, and sometimes those things are associated with poor sleep. And it works on other stuff, like it's also able to calm your shen, but it's something that you have to do regularly. You need to do at least once a week, acupuncture, for it to kind of be working there. The other thing you could do with your diet to help the sleep is to just try to refine the diet away from things that might be aggravating that kind of condition. So, if you're having a lot of sweet and sugary foods late at night, now there's no judgment on you, but this is sometimes what happens. You're busy, you're a mum now, or you're still a mum, I don't know how many kids you've had. That's, what was I going to say? Yeah, so sometimes you're busy, and then you're eating sugary or carbohydrate high foods at night right before you go to bed. And for some people, that can actually stop them from going to sleep. I mean, the other issue you've got when you've got a baby is the babies are waking up as well. So sometimes you are having your own trouble falling asleep, and then you just get to sleep, and then the baby wakes up and you're like, what? Or the other kids wake up, the toddler wakes up, or, like, I don't have any kids myself, but both my brothers have kids, and one brother I particularly like. I've looked after their kids a few times. I've had sleepovers at my place and stuff like that, and sometimes like I'll be over there and I just can't believe like, um, like the kid's been in bed for 2 hours, like no joke. And me and my brother were having like a conversation. It was becoming a bit more of an adult conversation. And I just hear this little voice and he goes, "I'm still awake," like out of his bed. I'm like, how are you still awake? Like, he must have been feeling bad that he was hearing something he probably shouldn't have been hearing, like, you know, something more private from Auntie Marie. And he's like, "I'm still awake." We were both like, "What?" He's just been lying there for 2 hours awake. But these kids get up, you know, they have nightmares in the night, and you know, so it's hard being a mum. Like, there's a lot of stuff that you have to deal with, right? And I mean, you might be blessed where your baby sleeps through the night, but there's just a whole bunch of stuff that happens. So the other thing you can do that's really important is any kind of blood nourishing type of diet is not going to go astray. Okay, so I'm not saying that you are blood deficient, but your body has come from a season of using a lot of blood to make that baby, and you know, depending on how recent it was, you can even jump into some of these things that are for the month of confinement, these sort of high blood tonic type of, they're really, really nourishing foods and herbs. And they often use sweet flavors like dardzow, the dates, the red dates, cooking with them to sort of help. I mean, that is a one food herb that can also be used, dardzow. And it just calms the mind in a different way. It's a sweet flavor. So again, I wouldn't sort of drink a lot of it at the right before you go to bed. But these kinds of things are like herbal. They can be used as herbal teas, like the dardzow and the baihe. You usually don't combine them together. But keep putting them in foods and having them in teas and things like that, you know. But the blood nourishing type of foods, those things are good. So if hopefully you're not a vegetarian or a vegan, if you are, then maybe just reconsider that, because that's part of the blood deficiency scenario. But if you are vegetarian or vegan, there are some foods that you can do. I think I have a video on that on the channel. It's just otherwise like all the meats, slow cooked meats, bone broths, really good. Lamb is a good one, really good food for nourishing blood. Chicken stock. If fish is good, if that's all that you have, fish. But I mean, fish is still good as well. But yeah. All right. Are there any other questions that people want to ask now that we've? I don't want it to seem like I'm mean not answering these things, but I feel very strongly where there's some things that are dangerous if you do it yourself. So that's kind of the idea there. So I hope that that's been sufficient for you and that you're still here. That you haven't jumped off the stream. Yep. So, all right. I have about at the max another half an hour to do this because I've got some patients today to see, and got to clean this room out, get rid of all the gear from the room. Oh, all right, we've got a question about dampness reversal formula. Okay, dampness reversal. I don't know if there is a dampness reversal, but I like the way you've put that. I like the way you've sounded that. So let me just put this on the screen so we can all see that. Just getting this question up on the screen. So how Chinese medicine, how herbalists look at dampness is also it's quite varied. There is a formula that I can talk about that is fairly easy to get over the counter, and it's something that can be useful for a lot of people, but it may not fix the problem for everyone, okay? So there are some people so let's talk about how do you get dampness. in the long term, it's because the earth element is deficient. It's because that spleen and stomach, particularly the spleen, just can't capacitate what you're putting into it. Now, it might be because the foods are so dampening, or because something else has happened. And the original use of this formula was for a person that got sick from a cold or a flu, and then they went through this process and something has weakened their spleen and stomach just from the 6 or 7 days of having a cold or a flu. This can happen. But it also is something that we see where people are stuck like this. They can get into this situation not from a cold or a flu, or maybe the cold or a flu happened ages ago, like years ago. And ever since then, they've kind of had this thing. So it's not a great formula to use if you have constipation. So because it's the idea of it is drying up the damp. And the formula is called Li Jung 1. Okay, so I'm not saying it's a reverse because there isn't such a formula called dampness reversal, but I like the idea. I like that name, the dampness reversal formula. So I'm only mentioning this also because it's a common sort of over-the-counter, commonly available, I would say, over-the-counter formula. It's a very simple formula, and if it's not right for you, then the detriment that it would cause is probably just to bung up your stools. Okay. So like I said at the start of this stream or start of this whole conversation, like everything can have a benefit and a detriment. So something that dries damp could dry the fluid so much that there's constipation. So if you don't need that dampness to be dried, you do not take these herbs, because then you might get constipated, right? Now, when this formula is also used, Li Jung 1, LIZHONG WAN, is after or like during vomiting and diarrhea from gastroenteritis, like you get barley belly or gastro bug or something like that. It's a really good formula to take when you're traveling. If you are traveling to a country where you might eat the wrong thing, okay? It's not like a hangover, eat the wrong thing. It's you've ingested some kind of poisonous thing, and now you've got the runs. You've got like that liquidy diarrhea, right? So that's a kind of a damp, right? That's an acute kind of dampness. And this formula kind of treats that stuff in that acute way, but it also can treat things where the dampness is really long-standing, and the person is like, what that formula does is it builds the earth. It builds the resilience of the earth. Now, there are that's kind of like a core sort of thing you could do for a while and see what that does. See what happens to the strength of your digestive system. So there are ways of like looking at how we can intervene in a person, right? Like there's different levels of what different levels that we can intervene at when someone's chronically ill, when they've got something that's been going on for a long time. And there are other formulas that I can't really mention here because that practitioners need to prescribe them. And they are like much more stronger at getting rid of the damp, like much, much more stronger. And what you need to do with that, with those, you need to be under the care of a practitioner to get that. And if you did it wrongly, it would be dangerous. But sometimes those dangerous as in like, without a practitioner prescribing it, like, you could not feel great. You're not going to feel well. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to read this thing. Please try to add CC written conversation if possible. What does that mean? I'm not sure what that means. You want to know how to write that formula name out, right? That's why I spelled it out. You've got a pen and paper, you can write it down. I'll be nice and I'll put it in the chat for you. So that's kind of, I'm not saying that is the dampness reversal formula. Okay. That's just what I'm just saying that's a formula to support the earth. And if the weak earth is the reason why the dampness is there, it will strengthen the earth enough that the earth will be stronger. Now, I actually do have a pot plant here. So This is a great example, right? This is one of my favourite examples of that. This one, I woke up this morning and I think, it looks a little bit like it needs a bit of water. But I tend to overwater these plants. I said, because I just like, they might need a bit of water. So I was like trying my best, like not to water them too much. But see, this has holes in the bottom. Now, if there were no holes in the bottom, when you put the water in, it becomes waterlogged. And that's a kind of dampness. So when there's waterlogged, the roots will rot. The plant can't thrive. So too much water can create damp, right? So how do we get rid of that too much water? We either poke holes in the bottom and we drain that damp out. So those formulas are not the Legion one. They're other formulas. The other way we could get the dampness out, now sometimes we have to do both of those things because it makes sense that we would do both of those things, is we put this into the sun or into a drier place and we stop watering it, and the dryness will make the plant kind of thrive, right? So the let me just put that plant back in its little thing. So that's the idea, right? So sometimes you need to drain damp, and that's the idea of poking the holes in the bottom of the thing. So I'm not sure how you're going to get those herbs in India. I have had a patient once in India and we posted herbs over to her. That was through a consultation kind of process. So I cannot send herbs over to people. What I do, see the herbs here, these are all individual herbs. Now, I have all these in the bulk, but I also have them in the granules. So when the granules is like, basically the bulk is boiled up and freeze dried into a powder. What was I going to say? So we would do a consultation, we'll work out what's right for you, post it over. You do have some issues sometimes with customs and stuff, like the lady I sent the herbs to a while ago. I think it was just around the COVID time or something like that, or maybe just before. It was probably after, I think. And they got through okay. They were fine. They got through the customs. You could just look online for that formula somewhere and find a company that sells it to there. So what I do is, what I'm trying to say is, I don't have pre-made formulas. We don't do that. Everything is kind of made for the patients. We're not a retail shop of Chinese herbs, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So there are some places, but part of the reason why I don't do that is the ethical aspects of it. So you just have to find that. Wow, that's very generous of you, National Public Adjusting, for the super chat. Thank you so much. But I feel like you could just put your super chats together and just do a consultation with somebody. You probably I think you were the person that super chatted last week as well, and that's quite generous. So thank you. But you could just use that super chat money to do a consultation, and then you would probably be able to get the right formula for yourself with doing that. So if you're in that position to do a consultation, just do that, and hopefully that will get you on the right track with the herbs that you need quicker than faffing around on your own. And some practitioners in the US as well, they will do things by telehealth too. So yes, look, I prefer to send people to someone in the US if there is someone in my system that can do what I do, because they can feel your pulse, right? That's a big part of, especially for your question was about, if you're breastfeeding, feeling your pulse is a big part of knowing whether the herbs are right for you, right? So there's going to be an element of, I wouldn't say guesswork, but puzzling it out more with the symptoms. It's more accurate with the pulse for the way we do our system. Some systems of Chinese herbs, they don't care about the pulse as much. They still feel your pulse, but they don't sort of rely on it to sort of know everything about it. But even if a practitioner can feel your pulse like one time, and then you do the rest by telehealth, that's still really, really beneficial as a person doing the system I do. So I've recently had a patient reach out to me. I think they are in the US too. And they're like, we found someone that's near enough to them, but they're not really that close. And, I was like, why don't you see this person, or you can see me by telehealth if you want. She's like, I'll see this guy. If she sees this guy, he's not close enough to her, so it's probably going to be telehealth with this other guy in America. But the option is then that if you can make the drive or the trip to see that practitioner even just once, they're going to get an idea of your pulse. So your pulse diagnosis changes with what you eat, what you do with your life. It definitely changes, right? But in general, the constitution of your body you will have a general sort of constitutional type of pulse that kind of won't change a lot, probably won't change a lot. And you can kind of be on more of the right track by feeling the pulse. So thank you so much. Appreciate your support. Appreciate your support of the channel. Yeah. Cool. All right. Any other questions that we've got? Yeah. So for the Indian or herbs order person, I think the best thing to do is to look, like, search that formula and look for companies that are they're probably in the USA, and whether they'll ship it to you. Or like, is there Chinese medicine in India or is there not? Because this lady that I saw, she had an acupuncturist that she was seeing there, and like, it seems like it must be part of the medicine, but I know Ayurvedic medicine is a big part of your medicine there, and they probably use, herbs in a like, they're not using Chinese herbs obviously, but they're using herbs in a completely different way. So I'm not sure if that's if you even have Chinese medicine herbalists there. Like, maybe I need to come and move to India. No, I'm not going to do that. But it would be interesting. Yep. And it'd be probably a little bit like, I don't know, Chinese medicine people using Ayurveda, right? I mean, Chinese people in China using Ayurveda, like, why would you? Because they've got Chinese medicine all around them, and it's so ingrained in as the culture. That is the traditional medicine that people kind of go to. Yep. All right, we've got a couple. There was a question here that I found, and where is it? Yep. So I probably got a couple more minutes. There's one on the channel that I was going to answer. I'll see if I can just find it again. I mean, yeah, it was on the channel, as in it was there. It might be this one. 3. Yep. So this is from a video that I did. What did I do the video on? Pulse diagnosis, I think. And this question was, is it hard to feel the pulse? I'm just trying to find again. Is it hard to learn how to feel the pulse? Mrs. Tracy Gilchard. How long to learn to feel of the pulse? So this is a great question. And like, maybe you're a TCM student, or you're thinking about it from, how long it takes for your own practitioner to do that. So in Chinese medicine school, across the board, this is all schools, I would say, like, I can't say for sure because I don't know every school, but I've heard a lot of things from people. It saddens me that it's not really taught properly or focused upon. And there's a lot of reasons for that, in why it isn't taught, why it isn't focused upon too much. The school that I was teaching at was very similar to the school when I learned Chinese medicine. As in, I'm not blaming that school. It's just part of how the curriculum kind of is, and that's the stuff that we try to change. Now, as a teacher in a system like that, I will do the best I can whenever I see my students in an in-person setting to give them practical help. And that's how I know that they weren't learning it properly, because they were desperate for that help. They were like, oh, can we do a bit on this? Can you help us a bit with pulse? And it'll be a class on something else, right? And that's the bit they feel the least confident with. Now, the confidence of the pulse comes from a system that is no longer taught in the Chinese medicine world. And that system is you sit with your teacher, they see a patient, there's a chatting going on, there's a consultation. The practitioner feels the pulse. The doctor then writes the prescription, and this is all happening in a small room, and that doctor will have students that work with them. And those students would have come because, like, even now they have this system in hospitals in China, although they're not like they're not glued to that practitioner. They're sort of on some kind of rotation. So they might be, you're doing this, you're doing like a year in the herbal medicine department, or you're doing a few months with this doctor, and then they might rotate them to a different doctor, that kind of thing. But before they had the hospital system, this would have been like, here's my clinic and here are my students. And because you're doing well, patients are getting better, and people want to learn Chinese medicine. Just like you guys come to the channel because you want to learn a bit of Chinese medicine. You're like, I want to learn it. And this is how they used to teach it in those times, where not everyone would have done a formal course. Some people wanted to learn Chinese medicine just like you do, in a very ad hoc way. And they would find a teacher, that they wanted to learn from, and they would basically give up whatever else they were doing and go and live at that teacher's house, most likely, or in a very close place there. And they would basically do the jobs in the clinic. They would sweep the floor. They would do they would make up the herbs. They would do all the pao zhe for the herbs, which is like all these things here. So, for instance, like here's a gun chow. It has to be honey fried, right? So someone's got to fry that with honey. Someone's got to dry it, right? There's some herbs that would have had to be. This is talking about ages ago, not now. Not probably not since the 50s or 60s. Where did these herbs come from? They had to be grown, they had to be dried, they had to be sourced, they had to, so the students would be doing all that stuff as well, like, or learning that from the teacher. And so the teacher would feel the pulse, getting back to the consultation, and then the practitioners, the students that were there, would sometimes have the opportunity to feel that pulse. They sometimes wouldn't, right? So many patients, they wouldn't have the opportunity to do that. Or their job is to go and make up the herbs for that person, fill that script out. The doctor would write out the script. And often they're calling it out. They'll just say, shao chai hu tang, chai hu this, blah, 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 blah. And the other student doctors are writing that down. And then they're going to go and fill that script. So that system of learning was like very, very, very hands-on, like no pun intended, like hands-on with the pulse, but also very clinical based. So for instance, we don't say in the class, today we're going to learn sinusitis, and we're going to teach you about the sinus system and what are the channels there and all this sort of stuff. And it's just like a random lesson. One day you might see a patient that has sinusitis. Right, that's kind of how Chinese medicine's taught now. And then they do a class on pulse diagnosis, and they'll say, here's a class on pulse. Okay, everyone's going to go around and feel each other's pulses, and this is a wiry pulse. The teacher will usually point out a few pulses. Here's a slippery pulse, find a wiry pulse. All the students should come and feel that pulse. They don't even sometimes do that in the classes now, but that's kind of roughly what happens. And then that's a 3-hour class, and that's it. For some people, that's it. That's all they get. And then they're supposed to learn the rest in the clinic. And the student clinic environment is up to how good, I shouldn't say how good, but how involved, or how much the supervisor actually cares about these students learning pulse diagnosis. So I've seen many, many, many times and heard from other students that they see a patient, and this is, again, I'm not trying to call out people that are not doing it right, but I sort of am as well because it really saddens me. And what happens in a student environment is the patient comes in, the student doctors are there, they do all the consultation, they go into a little room, and the supervisor's there. Now, the supervisor could also have, like, sometimes when I'd supervise student clinics, I would have between 4 and 8 patients there and all the students belonging to those patients to deal with at any one time. So in 1 hour, there's at least 4 consultations going at once. So I have to be very active. I have to be very, what's happening here, what's happening there. And the students basically come out of that consult. They have a little chat between themselves. There might be a senior student and a junior student together or something like that. And they try to present the case to you. So now they're presenting the case to you, and they present, depending on their level of whatever they're at, ready to graduate versus just started. And they'll say, well, I think this patient has, spleen chi deficiency with liver chi stagnation. And there's the practitioner, the supervisor, the clinical supervisor will say, why do you think that? Or, yep, that's good. It depends on how busy they are, how many, they might have other patients they need to, and then they need to supervise the treatments. And there's a lot going on. So I'm not sort of bad-mouthing the supervisor here. But the practitioners, the student practitioners say, I felt a wiry pulse on the left side. Or, the pulse was slippery. They don't even say where it was slippery. They just say, they had a slippery pulse or a wiry pulse, right? Is the practitioner going into that room and feeling that pulse and correcting the students or saying to the students, this is, yes, they had slippery soon, but the one was deep and wiry. And then the students go back and they go, yeah, that's that deep and wiry. I missed that. No, that's not happening as much as it should happen. Now, if it is happening, that's great. That's what should be happening. But at the very least, that should be happening. And if that's not happening, how are students supposed to learn pulse? So by the time they graduate, all of the clinical weight of these cases is not placed on pulse. They're placing it on the symptoms, the tongue, other things that they've used in the diagnosis. So by the time they graduate, when these students go into their own clinics, they feel the pulse, and it's less meaningful to them because not all this weight is placed on it. Whereas the system I do with herbs, a lot of weight is placed on the pulse. So you need to get the pulse right. And we, my teacher teaches it, try and feel the pulse earlier in the consultation, not at the very end of the consultation. And it is a different system. Now, there's other systems that do that. Leon Hammer, Dr. Shen style is a pulse-based system for more mental illness, psychosis, mental health. I mean, they treat physical stuff and all these kinds of things as well. I'm not sort of saying it's only for that, but it's much more on the mental, psycho-spiritual aspect of things, and they place a lot of weight on the pulse. There's other systems. There's Japanese medicine systems that place a lot of weight on the pulse for the treatment, right? For the acupuncture treatment. So they feel the pulse, they do the treatment, they come back and they feel the pulse change, and that's how they know that that's how they know what they're going to do next, or whether the treatment's finished or done its job. Now, if you don't have a system like that at your disposal, then there's no weight on that pulse diagnosis. So for many practitioners, it just fades off. I'm talking just stock standard TCM practitioners. And then for some people like myself, that's what had happened with me. It wasn't really using pulse diagnosis to formulate prescriptions and stuff like that for patients, because it's not taught like that in TCM. And then when I went and did this course, my ICAM course, all that sort of changed. And it's a different system, and it uses, and it's training you. Now, what my teacher does is he's kind of replicated that system that I was trying to explain, that how Chinese medicine is meant to be taught, where the doctor is there. We go back to the original story. There was a reason for that, right? The doctor's there, and he's or she is feeling the pulse, asks the patient some questions, starts calling out the prescription. The little students write it down, and then the next patient comes in. Now, what happens? Those students feel that pulse, and the patient probably goes off, and they feel that pulse. So there might be 30 patients or 40 patients a day, often more, right? My teacher's teacher apparently saw 400 a day patients, right? So this is a very quick system, feel pulse, ask a few questions, maybe one question, and then it's the formula time, right? And obviously he's not sitting there making all the herbs up in that way. Why? How could you? You couldn't do that physically. There's not enough time to do that. So the students are making the herbs up. But within all those patients, that vast amount of patients, I would say these practitioners would at least see 40, maybe 50 people a day. Then the students all would have opportunity to feel like if there was 50 patients in the day, they're probably feeling at least 20 pulses that day, every day. And so that's how they're learning. And then sometimes this is going back to how it was originally taught. So these people would have rocked up at this doctor's house saying, oh, Sifu, I want to be your teacher. I want you to be my teacher or something like that. I want you to be my guidance, and will you take me on as a student? And the doctor would sort of let those people calm, and there's no questions asking in those scenarios, right? There's no sort of oh, what about this or what about that? Like during the consults, no way. There's no way you're going to be doing any of that stuff, right? And then the the end of the day maybe, or other days, the teacher will sometimes say, right, I'm going to teach you something. So everyone come over. And all these people would cycle their bikes over, and they will come to that teacher's house, and the teacher will say, right, we're going to talk about sinusitis. Okay. And it's usually because there was a patient with that, or we're going to talk about something, and there will be a bit more of a linkage between what you just did and now what you're learning. Whereas the way they teach it now, and I'm not having a go at how they teach it now, it just is. And I don't know if there's any way around that. Maybe one day I'll start my own school. I probably won't. I'm over it now. But these things go through my mind where you think, okay, is there a better way to kind of teach this stuff, right? Now, when we teach it now, we have a curriculum so that when you sign up for Chinese medicine school, you're going to learn sinusitis. You're going to learn cancer. You're going to learn this. You're going to learn that. You're going to cover all these things. You're going to learn Zhang Fu patterns of all these different patterns. Whereas the other way was just a long road to eventually, if you've seen a lot of patients, eventually you would have seen most things that would come into the clinic. So you've been with that doctor for maybe 10 years before they'd let you out, or you'd feel good enough to go out on your own and do your own thing. Or often those teachers you'd be working with that teacher all that time, and then they'll pass away or retire, and then you take on the practice or something like that. Like that's often what would happen, right? So yeah, it's just a different way of learning. So how long it takes to learn the pulse, there has to be some kind of continuous practice with it, with a teacher that's better than you. There has to be that. And the only way to kind of get that is through a program that offers some kind of clinical training. Some of these programs that people do have clinical components to them, where it's like in a seminar way, but it's not just like a one-off seminar and that's all you do, right? Like these things that are like one-off seminar and that's it, you can't really learn it. Like even in the system I did, right? So the way my teacher teaches it is he's got these seminars that you learn, and you go and you do all that. And then you do the pulse seminar, and if you did the thing to get that degree, where's that degree on the wall there? That red one. There's no pulse training in that, except for one or two seminars. Two seminars out of the 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know, however many seminars there are, like 6, 18. Let's say there's 18 type of 18 weekend seminars. 2 of those are on the pulse diagnosis. The rest are on other things. Obviously related to pulse, like pulse comes up all the time because the system's so reliant on that, right? But the way that we learn it is clinical training days. So you pay money to do that. You a patient, a more senior practitioner than yourself that's certified to do that will see the patients and feel the pulse, and then you get, as a student of this system, you get to feel that pulse. And so you're like calibrating that pulse in your mind. You're cementing, like they're saying, oh, that's a wiry pulse. You're like, oh, okay, that's a wiry pulse. It's a bit more complicated than just, oh, that's a wiry pulse, but you get the idea. So what I'm saying is there has to be some kind of clinical training there. And where can that practitioner find that? So that's kind of how long it takes to learn to feel the pulse would depend on how many patients of pulses you can feel and how many pulses you can calibrate with a teacher that's better than you, that is doing that same system of herbs or acupuncture that you're doing. So this could be the same as with acupuncture. Some people go to Japan to learn Japanese acupuncture. Now, when you go somewhere like Japan or China, now I've never gone to Japan, but I know practitioners who've done that, and they're very good at Japanese style medicine, right? Often in those settings, there's lots of patients. So when I went to China, it's different to me. If a student came to my clinic, there might be 6 patients in the day. If we just did half a day, right, that would be 6 people. If we got 1 every hour, right? If we had 2 every hour, it might be 12 people in a day. And, you know, that'd be like, most practitioners don't work a whole day. Some do, right? Anyway, let's say you had 12 people in a day. Some practitioners might see 20 in a day, right? If they're doing acupuncture and they've got 2 or 3 rooms going, you know, that kind of thing. But the maximum you'd be able to see is 20 in a day. Whereas in China, there's like every 10 minutes there's a patient coming in for herbs. They're busy. So you might see 30, 40, 50 a day. So the more cases you see, the more pulses you feel, the quicker you're going to learn it. So it is beneficial in some settings to go to another place where those patients are more free-flowing, where those patients are more busy. But then you've also got to have a teacher that you trust. And it also takes time for you to practice. If you're saying, okay, I've felt the pulse and now I'm making an assessment based on that pulse. I need to see if that pans out with the patient, with the thing I'm done for the patient. And if it does, then that teaches you, oh, well, my pulse diagnosis was right. It's kind of a bit more complicated than that, but like that's the essence of it. So anyway, that's that question. So hopefully that's kind of answered it for that person, which was a question on the channel to kind of get onto. We are going to probably finish the stream now because I have some patients to see in about 20 minutes. So I have to clear out all this stuff out of the room. Thank you again for the super chat, National Publishing 180. Please send an email so that I can help you find someone near to you, and I will check my email today. Just my Gmail for the channel, I just don't always check it because it's something I log into. Because a lot of the people send a lot of stuff, like requests for weird people to be on the channel, and they're not always weird people, but some of them are. Like, oh, the spiritual guru wants to be on your channel. I'm like, nah, you're not coming on. Sorry. Just have to laugh sometimes. But yeah, so let's do that. And I hope everyone has a good rest of the week. And yeah, thanks everyone for supporting the channel. If you haven't subscribed already, if you're watching this afterwards and you would like to ask a question, just put it in the chat and I'll do my best to answer it through the week. Thanks everyone.